I am Mr. Obsidian. Prepare yourself for the Man of Black.
What really happened here? Did three acrobats really choose to avenge their sister's death? And haven't dogs and cats been known to predict earthquakes? But what about the detail of the chocolate chip cookies? And then what about those dog tags?
But then, how do you explain the chocolate? How else do you explain both people using the same computer repair shop? If not, how could the boy suddenly speak Chinese?
But then how do you explain the Grim Reaper? And what about this unusually shaped chair? Why did the insult machine suddenly give compliments? And how do you account for the loose stitching on it? Was Jocelyn really cursed by the beautician?
If so, how do you explain the doll using the name Miss Robinson?
But then, how do you explain the grease and screwdriver in the father's bed? If so, how did the men's room attendant know so much about Artie?
But then, how could he have possibly known about the children's playground? If so, how did he get the gift back? But then, who murdered Professor Wainwright? And how do you explain the pen? And how do you explain the fact that the box fell at just the right time? How do you explain the smudge on the phrenologist's head?
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box? I got you! No! You almost gave me a heart attack. No!
It was so hard not to laugh.
No! No!
But who was Elmo P. Middleton?
Did the spirit of Abraham Lincoln actually seize hold of Senator Quigley and force him to tell the truth?
No! God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Quiet, please. No need to shout. No need to yell. No need to have a riot. Shut your eyes. Take a deep breath. Oh, you've gone all quiet.
Adrenochrome is a chemical compound produced by the oxidation of adrenaline. Adrenaline is normally produced by the adrenal glands and by a small number of neurons in the medulla oblongata. As a medication, it is used to treat several conditions, including allergic reaction anaphylaxis, cardiac arrest, and superficial bleeding. Extracts of the adrenal gland were first obtained by Polish physiologist Napoleon Cybulski in 1895-93. These extracts, which he called nadnercina, adrenaline, contained adrenaline and other catecholamines. American ophthalmologist William H. Bates discovered adrenaline's usage for eye surgeries prior to the 20th of April, 1896. In 1897, John Jacob Abel, 1857-1938, the father of modern pharmacology, found a natural substance produced by the adrenal glands that he named epinephrine. John Jacob Abel, the 19th of May, 1857, the 26th of May, 1938, was an American biochemist and pharmacologist. He established the pharmacology department at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in 1893, and then became America's first full-time professor of pharmacology. During his time at Hopkins, he made several important medical advancements, especially in the field of hormone extraction. Adrenaline being the first hormone to be identified, it remains a crucial first-line treatment for cardiac arrests, severe allergic reactions, and other conditions. In 1901, Jokichi Takamine successfully isolated and purified the hormone from the adrenal glands of sheep and oxen. Adrenaline was first synthesized in the laboratory by Friedrich Stoltz and Henry Drysdale-Dakin independently in 1904. Every emotional response has a behavioral, an autonomic, and a hormonal component. The hormonal component includes the release of adrenaline, an adrenomedulary response to stress controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. The major emotion studied in relation to adrenaline is fear. In an experiment, subjects who were injected with adrenaline expressed more negative and fewer positive facial expressions to fear films compared to a control group. These subjects also reported a more intense fear from the films and greater mean intensity of negative memories than control subjects. The findings from this study demonstrate that there are learned associations between negative feelings and levels of adrenaline. Overall, the greater amount of adrenaline is positively correlated with an aroused state of negative emotions. These findings can be an effect in part that adrenaline elicits physiological sympathetic responses, including an increased heart rate and knee shaking, which can be attributed to the feeling of fear regardless of the actual level of fear elicited from the video. Although studies have found a definite relation between adrenaline and fear, other emotions have not had such results. In the same study, subjects did not express a greater amusement to an amusement film, nor greater anger to an anger film. Similar findings were also supported in a study that involved rodent subjects that either were able or unable to produce adrenaline. Findings support the idea that adrenaline has a role in facilitating the encoding of emotionally arousing events, contributing to higher levels of arousal due to fear. It has been found that adrenergic hormones, such as adrenaline, can produce retrograde enhancement of long-term memory in humans. The release of adrenaline due to emotionally stressful events, which is endogenous adrenaline, can modulate memory consolidation of the events, ensuring memory strength that is proportional to memory importance. Post-learning adrenaline activity also interacts with the degree of arousal associated with the initial coding. There is evidence that suggests adrenaline does have a role in long-term stress adaptation and emotional memory encoding specifically. Adrenaline may also play a role in elevating arousal and fear memory under particular pathological conditions, including post-traumatic stress disorder. Overall, extensive evidence indicates that epinephrine modulates memory consolidation for emotionally arousing tasks in animals and human subjects. Studies have also found that recognition memory involving adrenaline depends on a mechanism that depends on beta adrenoceptors. Adrenaline does not readily cross the blood-brain barrier. It plays an essential role in the fight or flight and fear response by increasing blood flow to muscles, heart output, pupil dilation response, and blood sugar level. It does this by binding to alpha and beta receptors. It is found in many animals, including humans, and some single-celled organisms. It has also been isolated from the plant Scoparia dulceus, found in northern Vietnam. It was the subject of limited research from the 1950s through to the 1970s as a potential cause of schizophrenia. While adrenochrome has no currently proven medical application, the semi-carbazide derivative, carbazochrome, is a hemostatic medication. Adrenochrome is mass-produced and commercially available to the masses, and is not a controlled substance. The oxidation reaction that converts adrenaline into adrenochrome occurs both in vivo and in vitro. Silver oxide was among the first reagents employed for this, but a variety of other oxidizing agents have been used successfully. In solution, adrenochrome is pink, and further oxidation of the compound causes it to polymerize into brown or black melanin compounds. Adrenochrome is readily synthesized from commercially available reagents. Chloroacetic acid and catechol react in the presence of phosphoryl chloride to yield chloroacetylcatechol. After purification, chloroacetylcatechol is reacted with aqueous methylamine and treated with hydrochloric acid, yielding adrenolone hydrochloride. This is then hydrogenated to racemic adrenaline. Finally, adrenaline is oxidized to adrenochrome by an appropriate oxidizing agent, such as silver oxide. Chloroacetic acid, industrially known as monochloroacetic acid, MCA, is an organochlorine compound, and carboxylic acid, with the formula ClCH2CO2H. It is the simplest of the chloroacetic acids. This colorless solid is a useful building block in organic synthesis. In its largest scale application, chloroacetic acid is used to prepare the thickening agent carboxymethylcellulose and carboxymethyl starch. Chloroacetic acid is also used in the production of phenoxy herbicides by esterification with chlorophenols. In this way, 2-methyl-4-chlorophenoxyacetic acid, MCPA, 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, and 2,4,5-trichlorophenoxyacetic acid, 2,4,5-T, are produced. It is the precursor to the herbicide glyphosate and dimethoate. Chloroacetic acid is converted to chloroacetyl chloride, a precursor to adrenaline. Displacement of chloride by sulfide gives thioglycolic acid, which is used as a stabilizer in PVC and a component in some cosmetics. Approximately 50% of the synthetic catechol is consumed in the production of pesticides, the remainder being used as a precursor to fine chemicals such as perfumes and pharmaceuticals. Phosphoryl chloride, commonly called phosphorus oxychloride, is a colorless liquid. It hydrolyzes in moist air, releasing phosphoric acid and fumes of hydrogen chloride. It is manufactured industrially on a large scale from phosphorus trichloride and oxygen or phosphorus pentoxide. It is mainly used to make phosphate esters. Carbazochrome is an antihemorrhagic or hemostatic agent that will cease blood flow by causing the aggregation and adhesion of platelets in the blood to form a platelet plug, ceasing blood flow from an open wound. It is hoped that this drug can be used in the future for preventing excessive blood flow during surgical operations and the treatment of hemorrhoids. But research on its effectiveness and the severity of possible side effects remains to be fairly inconclusive. Semicarbazide is the chemical compound with the formula OC-NH2-N2H3. It is a water-soluble white solid. It is a derivative of urea. Urea serves an important role in the cellular metabolism of nitrogen-containing compounds by animals and is the main nitrogen-containing substance in the urine of mammals. Several small-scale studies involving 15 or fewer test subjects conducted in the 1950s and 1960s reported that adrenochrome triggered psychotic reactions, such as thought disorder and derealization. In 1954, researchers Abram Hoffer and Humphrey Osmond claimed that adrenochrome is a neurotoxic, psychotomimetic substance and may play a role in schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. In what Hoffer called the adrenochrome hypothesis, he and Osmond in 1967 speculated that megadoses of vitamin C and niacin could cure schizophrenia, reducing brain adrenochrome. Interestingly, energy drinks typically contain niacin, vitamin B3, and vitamin C, often at varying levels depending on the specific brand and product. Niacin is added to help convert food into energy, while vitamin C is an antioxidant. Some energy drinks may contain niacin levels exceeding the tolerable upper intake level, UL. The treatment of schizophrenia with such potent antioxidants is controversial. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association reported methodological flaws in Hoffer's work on niacin as a schizophrenia treatment, and referred to follow-up studies that did not confirm any benefits of the treatment. Multiple additional studies in the United States, Canada, and Australia similarly failed to find benefits of megavitamin therapy to treat schizophrenia. In his 1954 book, The Doors of Perception, Aldous Huxley mentioned the discovery and the alleged effects of adrenochrome, which he likened to the symptoms of mescaline intoxication, although he had never consumed it. Anthony Burgess mentions adrenochrome as drenchrome at the beginning of his 1962 novel, A Clockwork Orange. The protagonist and his friends are drinking drug-laced milk. They had no license for selling liquor, but there was no law yet against prodding some of the new vestiges, which they used to put into the old Moloko. So you could peat it with Velocet, or Synthemessung, or Drenkrum, or one or two other vestiges. Hunter S. Thompson mentioned adrenochrome in his 1971 book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This is the likely origin of current myths surrounding this compound, because a character states that there's only one source for this stuff, the adrenaline glands from a living human body. It's no good if you get it out of a corpse. The adrenochrome scene also appears in the novel's film adaptation. In the DVD commentary, director Terry Gilliam admits that his and Thompson's portrayal is a fictional exaggeration. Gilliam insists that the drug is entirely fictional and seems unaware of the existence of a substance with the same name. Hunter S. Thompson also mentions adrenochrome in his book, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. 72. In the footnotes in Chapter April, page 140, he says, "It was sometime after midnight in a ratty hotel room, and my memory of the conversation is hazy, due to massive ingestion of booze, fatback, and 40 cc's of adrenochrome." In the first episode of the ITV series Lewis, Whom the Gods Would Destroy, the motive for the crimes was that a prostitute had been killed years previously to harvest her adrenal glands. Adrenochrome is mentioned in the 2014 Warhammer 40,000 novel The Talon of Horus by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. It is described as a clear liquid beverage, that is, harvested from the adrenal glands of living slaves. Adrenochrome is the subject of several conspiracy theories, including QAnon and Pizzagate, in which the chemical plays a similar role to satanic ritual abuse stories. The theories commonly state that a cabal of theistic Satanists rape and murder children and harvest adrenochrome from their victims' blood as a recreational drug or as an elixir of youth, similar to children's blood infusions. In reality, adrenochrome has been produced by organic synthesis since at least 1952, is synthesized by biotechnology companies for research purposes, which they sell to anyone. As it is not a controlled substance, any medical or recreational use of the chemical is effortless to access, negating the need for the expensive and dangerous process of child abduction. Young blood transfusion refers to transfusing blood specifically from a young person into an older one with the intention of creating a health benefit. The efficacy and safety of young blood transfusions for anti-aging purposes remain a subject of debate in the scientific community, with limited clinical evidence in humans. There are also concerns of harm. While some preclinical studies on animals suggest potential benefits, there is a lack of robust clinical evidence to support its use in humans. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, in 2019, cautioned consumers against receiving young donor plasma infusions, stating that they are an unproven treatment. Experiments beginning in the 1950s in the Cornell University lab of Clive Mackay on pairs of old and young rodents placed into parabiosis provided some evidence, albeit limited and largely anecdotal, that the circulation of blood from young mice increased both the longevity and the tissue function of old mice. After decades in which relatively little work on parabiosis and aging was done, the work was revived by researchers at Stanford University and the University of California at Berkeley. Parabiosis experiments are difficult to generalize, as the circulatory systems of the mice are fully joined, and it is unclear whether the benefits come from the sharing of blood or the older mouse's access to the younger mouse's organs. A study conducted at UC Berkeley found that when delivered alone, blood from older mice was more inhibitory to the regenerative capacities of younger mice, then blood from younger mice was beneficial to older ones, and that the benefit of young blood in older mice was less than had been observed when older mice were subjected to parabiosis. Replacing plasma of old mice with saline and albumin from young mice was sufficient to rejuvenate brain, liver, and muscle. A 2020 review of plasma components that change with age identified several candidate anti-aging and pro-aging factors. In experiments like this, researchers found that some of the parabiost died quickly, 11 out of 69 in one experiment, for reasons the scientists could not explain, but described as possibly some form of immune rejection. Most such cases were the young parabiont. Amy Wagers, a researcher who co-authored several mouse studies on young blood transfusion, has said that her papers do not provide a scientific basis for some of the existing human trials. A review of studies on donor age for whole blood transfusions reported that blood from donors under the age of 20 years, when compared to donors aged 20-60 years, resulted in a modestly higher risk of death in the recipients. However, other studies have found no effect of age. Research on blood transfusion outcomes has been complicated by the lack of careful characterization of the transfusion products that have been used in clinical trials. Studies had focused on how storage methods and duration might affect blood, but not on the differences among lots of blood themselves. Another approach to achieving younger blood is to rejuvenate blood-producing stem cells in the bone marrow. A 2023 study reported that the existing rheumatoid arthritis drug anakinra blocked IL-1B in elderly mice and returned those cells to a more youthful state. Alkahest. Another company, Alkahest, was founded based on the Stanford rodent studies. As of 2017, it is collaborating with European pharmaceutical company Grifols to create a blood plasma-based experimental biologic drug, which they propose to test on people with Alzheimer's. Grifols is a global healthcare company and leading producer of plasma-derived medicines, founded in Barcelona, Spain, in 1909. With a workforce of over 23,800 employees, Grifols serves more than 110 countries and regions, and maintains a direct presence in over than 30. Principally a producer of blood plasma-based products, a field in which it is the European leader and third largest worldwide, and other biopharmaceuticals. The company is also in transfusion medicine, supplying devices, instruments, and reagents for clinical testing laboratories, in addition to clinical diagnostic technologies. Grifols also provides biological supplies for life science research, clinical trials, and for manufacturing pharmaceutical and diagnostic products. Taking a trip to the patent office, we can see that there is on file the patent for the process for preparing adrenochrome patent number 501923. Abstract. A medical labs is available from multiple chemical and lab supply companies. For instance, Santa Cruz Biotechnology, SCBT, a California lab supply firm, sells synthetic adrenochrome for $55 for 25 milligrams or $335 for 250 milligrams, said Taylor Woodson, a University of Texas/Arlington trained chemist who works as a technical service representative at SCBT. Woodson said 100% of its adrenochrome sales are to labs, which he said must have safety certifications to purchase the chemical. Trying to extract adrenochrome from a human would require complicated purification steps, not to mention surgery, said Dr. Middleman, the UCLA endocrinologist mentioned above, who also holds a PhD in physiology. Adrenochrome is a simple molecule that most undergraduate chemistry students could synthesize in a lab, he said in a July 30th, 2020, phone interview with Lead Stories. Taking it from living humans makes no sense, he said, since a child's adrenal gland would be unlikely to yield more than 1/2 milligram, even if there were a process for extraction of it from the gland and purification to remove tissue. He said a cow's adrenal gland, easily obtained from any butcher, would be much bigger, and bovine adrenochrome is identical to that found in humans, if there were a process to extract adrenochrome from the organ. Have a good evening. Please share, subscribe, and hit the bell, and let me know. And then you'll be updated every time I post a new video, and I'll stop shoving links down your messenger's throat like Homer Simpson at a hot dog eating contest.
No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's fiction. We made up this one. We made it up. Not this time. Wrong. Not this time. Not this time. You're wrong. Not this time. It never happened.
What's that money, Zelensky? NATO says you're good for it. Where's the money, Zelensky? Where's the money, Zelensky? Where's the fucking money, shithead? What's that money, Zelensky? NATO says you're good for it. Where's the money, Zelensky? Where's the money, Zelensky? Where's the fucking money, shithead?
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box? I got you! No! You almost gave me a heart attack. No!
It was so hard not to laugh. I'll tell you.
No! No!
A similar story happened to a young man in the...
I am Mr. Obsidian. Prepare yourself for the Man of Black.